topic, HealthCare application, how to build it. Of course, it's a huge topic, I would say. So that's why we will start from the very beginning. So Gena.
Perfect. Yeah, we are glad to greet everyone who has joined. It's our pleasure to start this online set of meetings. Yeah, it's quite new format for us. We had an offline meeting before on the same topic, and today we thought that we need to bring it to the online community, invite as much people as we can, share it, and of course, guys who came offline to our events, were like some first astronauts, let's say. So now we have trained a bit, and today the content is a bit more precise and a bit more structured. So hopefully you like it. We will talk about many things today. Some of them will be highly technical, so please don't get asleep. We'll try to make some jokes so that it will be less challenging for
Less
you.
boring.
Yes.
Yeah. At least we hope so. So anyway, the main aim for this meetup is just to discuss some practical things, which in case if you have an idea or just at the very beginning of your stage of your, the journey. So that's why I hope this will help you. So let's discuss our agenda. So first of all, we are going to discuss about the ICP. This is important thing. It's a bit marketing side of it, I would say. But anyway, so we are trying to make it, the more broad. And the next step, Gena, you can also tell us more.
Yeah, sure. So talking just in a broad scene, we are going to cover the first steps in the application development. It's highly important to be structured here and to understand that each step is quite valuable, so that you have less risks when you're developing the application and when you're deploying it. So that's why we're going to talk about things as ICP, about voice of customer, about how to prepare a discovery phase, how to create task descriptions, how it is working right now in the industry. Yeah, the best practices. We're going to show you some screenshots from the working projects, some screenshots from Jira on how we set up the workspaces here, what are the wireframes and how they look in our work, what we do with user stories, and how we create technical architecture. So all of that we're going to cover today. In generally, why we can talk about it and why you should listen to us and spend your lovely evening on this webinar. Together with
Morning.
Yeah, we have worked for more than 7 years in IT sphere. We are both from Ukraine, and having developed mobile and web applications for so many years, there is something definitely that we have understood, and on the wave of the trend, we can tell you where do we go and how to prepare, what's the best way of doing this or that things. Yeah, so both of us have done similar projects, and we have worked together on some of them. So we'll try to be try to help each other today and to add valuable information from our experience, not only presentation content.
Yeah, okay, so let's get started. So let's start with the ICP. Why we need it, actually, because we are talking about the product development and how to develop the healthcare application. But without the customer, I guess your application won't exist in the market sooner or later. So that's why you need to understand who is your customer, but not only understand, you need to use this ICP as a core of your any marketing, sales activities, and to build your plan how you're going to scale your product. The ICP is quite complex topic, I would say, so that's why our intent was just to show you some example of it. And by the way, this presentation we will share it with you after. You will find the link to the detailed example of ICP with the different customer personas, with the it's ICP, first of all, focusing on B2B, but you can easily adapt it to B2C in case if your product focusing on this area. Anyway, so this is the first step which you need to start with because it's foundation. And based on this foundation, it's not works like, you just build it once and put it somewhere and forgot about it, never use it. No, you have to all the time open your ICP and, adjust it, update any kind of insights which you've got during your, the journey, and build your, and also, any kind of marketing strategy on top of it. So please keep it all the time up to date. It will help you to be focused and at the same time know your customers better. In that case, you can build a relevant product and to not avoid the situation when you're starting doing the guest work or whatever. So, Jana, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I can add, basically my thoughts about it. I would say that creating an ICP is never stopping process. Um, as a founder, let's say, of a startup, or as a manager in a healthcare app, or the institution, you definitely know who your customers are. But just don't forget that your customers in real life, or your customers according to surveys, or very very narrow audience that you have talked to, may be very very different from what you expect them to do in your application. There are many resources about it. You can definitely find lots of things on the net. But from our experience, your first research about your ICP would be very, very different from what you get later. So you would have to create it every time on each step of application development, and to analyze it. We will tell you later today on the next online meetings on how that works, how to analyze your audience in the app, how to make those decisions. But yeah, just remember that your ICP is an average persona of your customer. It's not your couple of friends, or just two customers that you have surveyed. It's a bunch of people that can be very very different, and this is what you have to listen. Not some of them, but the absolute average, so more than half at least of those people. So yeah, that's just my thoughts about it.
Okay, sounds good. But actually, how we will know exactly the pain points of our customers, which and how we know if our product will be relevant to the market, or it's just our guessing. So instead of doing the guesswork, the best practices, it's one of the solution. I mean, the not only the best one, but in the practice it's good to use. Definitely voice of customer. So it's quite complex approach, and the main aim for this technique is just to gather as much as possible information about your customers, to understand them better, to interact with them, and also based on this information, you will know for sure how actually what kind of features you need to add for your MVP, for your POC, for your next iteration, instead of doing this guesswork. So again, the voice of customer can contains different channels of interaction with your audience. It depends on your ICP again. If it's B2B, B2C, these segments might change, of course. But anyway, you would need to slightly adapt it. But nevertheless, I mean, in overall, it should be as you can see right now on the screen, it contains different channels of interaction. So please use it even before you will start doing the development or the any kind of UX UI stage. It is highly important to gather this information, and then after you have a product ongoing on some the stage, doesn't matter, please continue do this. It give you all the time, it helps you, it works together with ICP, it helps you to keep up to date this ICP. This is a exactly tool how you can keep ICP the valid all the time, and the all your team will be synchronized through the ICP as well, because again, marketing team, sales team will work, all a product team as well will create a plan for the future of your product based on the ICP. So yeah, so highly important technique, and let's just move to the next one. The next one is about asking the industry leaders. It is also important to validate your idea, because they usually will challenge you about why your product is essential to have on the market. There are a lot of the similar products, how your products stand out of the rest of the products. So please try to use your network, or you can use, this is some example, it's not only one. And so that's why try to arrange a meeting with the leader expert and give them a chance to challenge you by the questions. Also, you can get the insights regarding instead of doing any marketing research on your own. So it's better just to ask. So it will save your time, save your budget. So yeah, feel free to do this. It is really important. So Gena, do you have something to add to the voice of customer and also industry leader? Yeah.
Thanks for covering it all, Dmitry, so we can move forward. Much more things to tell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So discovery phase, I guess you can tell us more about it.
So somebody called discovery phase, somebody calls as a preparation. Doesn't really matter. But the thing is that usually we just get a document which includes all of the things that you see on your screens, and in most cases it really depends on the project. Some of the projects do not require parts of this document. Some of them require all of them, of course. I'm speaking very broadly, but it is what it is. Basically, the most important parts, if we just talk about the most important ones, are the task descriptions to the functions, so that you describe everything from the perspective of the user that's using it. It is the UX design. Usually, it's much more important than UI. We'll tell you why later on, and also the architecture of the solution. So these are three pillars, in my opinion, that are the most important that you have to really focus on creating these documents. So yeah, let's move forward to some more details.
Yeah, so from my side, I would add it's the next step after you have done with the ICP voice of customer. Now you had the idea and the concept. Now you need to formalize it using this discovery phase. You need to shape it. So you need to be sure all teammates will know exactly what they need to do. So you will be at the same page. And so it's highly important to proceed with the discovery phase as the next step to prepare everything before you will start development stage to avoid the common pitfalls while implementing unnecessary functionalities, wasting budget, time, and then end up with the situation when you need to write your product from scratch for some reason. So to avoid such a situation, please spend your time on this discovery phase. By the way, the example how we usually proceed with the discovery phase you can find in this link as well. And this is just a brief explanation of each subject which we usually cover, and it is important to cover before any next steps, which might be development or any kind of step regarding the product, the POC or MVP version. Okay, so let's move to the next one. This is in more details explanation about the steps which need to do during a discovery phase, BPMN diagrams. The main point here, this is example of one of the diagram. As you can see, it's interaction with local doctor and remote doctor, but the idea is to show how the different user roles will affect it to the system itself. And in that case, you can have some kind of helicopter view of the product. Following this diagram would be easily to create the user flow. Also, based on this diagram, it's easy to create a technical task for UX/UI designer. Also, set up a database architecture and actually like a technical architecture itself, because you see everything, all the aspects which you need to pay attention on. You see how the different roles interact with each other, how it is affected on the system, and moreover, you can think in advance about how you're going to scale your product and how to build the architecture which will be scalable and secure. Especially for the healthcare, it's highly important to be sure like each role won't have access to some data which shouldn't have access to. So that's why it's highly important, at least based on my experience. I know like instead of BPMN diagram, we can use, for example, some kind of user flow diagram, more simplest way of this representation, but BPMN diagram will give you more insights and better view of your product. So Gena, do you have something to add?
Yeah. Basically, BPN diagrams are usually the first step to understand a bit better, to visually see who is responsible for what on each step. So yeah, as you can see, usually there are user roles on the latitude. Yeah, so that you can see who is responsible for what. And in this example, the process is quite simple, so everything is just on one screen. But of course, in large applications, this process either can be quite long, or there could be multiple processes for each piece of functionality that you're going to develop. The general look and type of symbols and icons are quite popular. You can find those symbols on the internet, how to set up everything. But again, it doesn't matter. Whatever works best for you and for your developers, if they understand what's needed, then you're good to go. Yeah, that's from my point of view.
Gena, by the way, we have some question, so probably you might answer on it. So the question asked by Mohammed. So is this phase done when using agile methodology too? I guess it's about the discovery phase. So did you get the question? So it's about, I guess, can we, as I understand the question, of course, can we actually follow this, I mean, implement this, execute this discovery phase using the agile methodology?
Yeah, definitely. So Of course, it depends on how much time you have and what product you build. If it's just a small MVP and you have a small team, you and your developer and designer, or a couple of developers, and you feel you have quite a good understanding between each other, then you probably don't need some of these things. Yeah. But if your team is quite large, if you're building big applications, you definitely need to prepare, because without this preparation, agile or waterfall, you will face just more risks. Yeah, you will face more questions from developers. You will face, incorrect like scope creep and incorrect estimates from them. So all sorts of problems. So that's why agile is just a methodology that you're going to use for project management, yeah, and for development. But the preparation, which we talk about, is important. I don't know if I answered your question, Mohammed, but yeah.
Yeah. So let's move to the next one. User journey. I guess this is also another representation of the most simplest way, or we can use it in a together with BPM and diagram. So what do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's just
Do,
another
do
way.
you think? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can use user journey instead of BPM, for example, but it's just a bit weak in my opinion.
Okay,
It's
good.
yeah.
But it's simple, at least if you want to something to sketch, I mean, just in the top of your head, you've got some idea. So please use this approach. It's more simpler, simplest than BPM and diagram, but it's also a good tool, nice to know. I mean, good to have in your toolkit and use it in case if you have some, the idea which you can just sketch and draw in more simplest way. Okay, so this is another representation of user flow. As you can see, it's connected with the UX itself, so which is also quite interesting because in that case, we move more closest to the understanding how different functionalities are connected to each other. And also we can see here as well, we can put some notes. By the way, we also recommend to use Miro board, for example, with the similar boards. This is a screenshot from Miro. And also it's good to interact with your also team. I mean, all together in this board challenges each other by questions and try to validate if this exactly user flow will be the best one or the right one. Yeah, that's regarding the user flow. Let's move to the next one. So I guess this is about the UI kits itself, because
Yeah.
previously, as you can see, we have a UX design, and then that means we can start with the UI. So Yana, you can tell more about it.
Yeah, definitely depends on how you work, and of course you'll have a designer in your team that have a tool set, but usually we use some tools in Miro or other software that helps us to do UX, to do it quickly, and move forward. But if you wish, you can combine UI and UX together. So what I mean here is there are lots of kits, like templates, yeah, let's call them templates or whatever, which you can use to create this the UI. Yeah, you can use Figma and download it from the official Figma website. I think it's on the next. Yeah, you can download those components that are pre-made. You don't have to design them yourself. Usually, those kits are they are programmed in Figma in a way that you can easily just drop your component like a button, chart, whatever, and the page will just jump around accordingly. These kits are also in the presentation. I believe it's the next slide, actually.
Yeah, let's check. So
Yeah,
indeed.
right here. Just some of them. So you can just look them if you wish to use them, please go ahead, or you can just type in Google whatever other kits they are, and usually those kits come around with pre-made front-end components which have sometimes even the front-end logics and basic connection with API, with backend API. So just try them on, show them to developers, see what they tell you. Probably they already worked with that, and it will just make their life so much easier as well. Not only for your designer and your product, but also for developers. So it will save up time for front-end development.
Yeah, correct. So the main point is to validate your idea or any kind of idea of your product in the more, simplest and fast way. So in order to do this, you can utilize the existing best practices to not reinvent the wheel. So yeah, feel free to use it. And the links again, you will find in the presentation after. So, okay, so now we have UX UI design, we have discovery phase started, we know exactly our, the customers' pain points. What next?
So usually, again, not usually, but usually it comes this way, but sometimes user stories are going before the UX design. It depends, again, how you wish to do it. But again, these user stories are needed to outline the main functionality of the future app. So what you do is you think about the milestones there, about the user roles, and you're just writing in a simple way, like as an admin, for example, I want to log in to the system and do this and that. I want to be able to perform these actions very broadly, so that as we say, every grandma can understand what's happening. You need to write them so that at the end of the day you can track if something is working or not on a very high level. Usually these user stories then come to the project management tool that you use, Jira, for example, and you track how you are performing, how your team is performing in development based on these stories. So you don't use these stories to create tasks. I mean, they're not used as tasks, but based on the stories, you then create tasks for developers, for front-end and dev and back-end developers. So basically, if you think about them in a more precise way, of course, there are much more things to list, yeah, on how it has to work, what are the outcomes, what are the alternatives and negative scenarios of this or that process. So, for example, if it's a login page, what happens if something goes wrong? If the password is wrong, what happens if there is an API error, or if, let's say, Google authentication is working wrongly? You have to think about it, and at least think about it. If you have time, you should write it. We write it if our clients need it, of course, so that we have a holistic view on each milestone, on each feature that we develop. Of course, with these descriptions, you'll be able to create test scenarios. We're going to talk about them again a bit later, but test scenarios for QA engineers are important as well. So that's how you can do it, or other way. I think it's on the next slide. If you have
Yeah,
something to add,
definitely.
Dmitry.
Yeah, definitely. So, for example, this is a use stories, I would say, again, more simplified than this example. But what is the advantages of this example? Personally, I prefer this one because you can easily convert it to the test cases scenarios. And then using the cases scenarios, you can automate the test process, which helps you a lot for the regression tests, especially to reduce the amount of time, which you would need to spend for this regression test. So that's why this is just several examples for you, which we usually use. So feel free to also implement it on your practice as well. And this is a test cases example which I mentioned. All the examples, I mean, not only on the screenshot, you will be able to download by this link. But the main point is for the test cases, we need to have the action, precondition, post-condition, expected results. And because again, to test something, we need to prepare for it. I mean, to test some scenarios, of course. So that's why we have a precondition. Then we have some business logic, and then after we need to check the actual results. And using this way of describing the user stories, it will help you test cases, user stories. It will help you later to use this documentation for the automation process. Test automation process. Okay, now we are talking about this is a Jira example, but it's a task management board. So Gianna can tell us definitely more about it.
Again, Jira can look quite differently from your approach, from how your team has worked with Jira and all other aspects of it. But generally speaking, what we do is we divide it before actually. Yeah? We divide the functionality into epics. So the epic can be an authorization. The epic can be, for example, some part of the functionality or external API connection or even stabilization at the end. It's also quite a big thing to do. So you divide your job, your project into these pillars, yeah? And then each of them would be filled with stories that you prepared. These stories are usually quite broad, as we remember, but we will have to create tasks. Here, you don't see actually a large chunk of work, but there are possibly the other slide. Okay, yeah, for example, okay, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So here, basically, you can see how the task is created. It is done for front-end team, and it is done for the back-end team, the same sort of functionality. You describe task in a more precise way later on. This description is a bit more technical. You definitely add a design file or the link to Figma, let's say. You add subtasks if it's needed, obviously again. And what you do, something which is not obvious, is that you link those tasks with stories and with other tasks as well. So some of them can be blocked by the others. Some of them can be related to those stories. And that's how you control everything, and especially not to lose any of those tasks. What I mean by that is then when the application is quite big, you have just hundreds and hundreds of those tasks and subtasks, and you have to somehow control your development and your client or your senior manager that observes that. So that's how you do it. You connect those stories that later on you're gonna check the done tasks. Check using those stories and see if the story is done or not. That's why sometimes when you have first 3 or 4 sprints, you don't see the stories being done just because they are quite broad, and usually the stories are being finished later on to the end, like closer to the end of the project. They're just coming like a wave, yeah, and because they are interconnected between each other and between the tasks. I don't think that I was quite clear here, but I hope you understand. You can ask questions, please do. Also, you can see in Jira on the right side of that, it's not only a description, but also lots of other things like the priority. Priority in our development, how we do it, usually plays the role of of the task that you have to do in the MVP, or you can push a bit forward. For example, if there is a big product and you have to launch it as soon as possible, you define which tasks has to be done in phase one. Some of them can be done a bit later, and those are major. So later on in Jira, you can filter only major tasks that your developer has to do, and that's how you control them. In regards to time tracking and story points that you can see here, it's very flexible. Some teams prefer to just track hours. Some create story points which can be 2 hours per story point. Somebody say that it can be 8 hours. Somebody create different way of calculation of the story points. It's up to you, just how you wish.
Yeah, from my side, what is important for me is the how to evaluate the quality of this task and how to, keep track on KPIs and how to understand if the team is performing or not. So the first of things which you need to consider is, of course, the acceptance criteria for the task. This is give you better understanding about how it should work and what kind of exactly the behavior it should contains business logic and definition of done. So it's some kind of checklist how you can check if everything was done correctly. So by these two things, such as acceptance criteria and definition of done, this is how you can control the quality of the task which was done. And of course, in addition to this, yeah, definitely we need to have the requirements and the rest of the things which again I mentioned. So let's move to the next slide, the technical side. This is an example of SQL database diagram. Nothing special, I would say, but the main point is here. Try to document as much as you can because it will help you to onboard new team member much faster. That's mean like it will save your budget as well. It's just a matter of time. Of course, it will take some time to they prepare this complex documentation, and the most important thing is keep it up to date. But it is important to get started from the very beginning, even on the planning stage. You need to have this kind of, the space where you're going to keep all your information about the front end, back end, cloud-based architecture, database schema, diagrams, APIs endpoints as well can be designed in advanced as well. So that's why please start doing it as soon as you can, because later it will help you to save the time for reduce the onboarding time for a new team member and make your life much more easily. So this is an example of APIs endpoints. Again, you can use the different tool for it. Depends on your technology stack. It can be even, the self-made, I would say, using GraphQL, for example, self-documented. You can use Swagger, you can even use Postman collection. It doesn't matter. The main point is you need to start documenting as soon as possible. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I guess we're quite close to our timeline. So here on the slide, you can see also, this is just a beginning of your journey, of course, if you just get started. And this is an essential, fundamental things which you need to know to get started. But this is not only things which you need to know. Of course, we are going to have the several meetups, offline, online. And we are going to discuss several topics in addition to the current one. That's first of all, we are going to discuss about the team composition and responsibilities, about the KPI, how to manage the team, how to make sure the team performing well, how to motivate the team, and so on. This is will be the next meetup. Also, we are going to discuss about the deployment process, because deployment process is also really crucial thing to regarding how fast you can release new features. It should be automated. We need to reduce human factor mistakes. So that's why we are talking about it in more details later on. And of course, the last but not least, it's security and compliances, because we are talking about healthcare applications. And depends on the region, you will face the different regulations. You need to prepare, and that's why it's important why I mentioned about the technical documentation, because it's also part of the compliances as well. So we will talk about it, different compliances in different regions, how to make sure like you won't have a huge fine when you go live or after some time period of the time, because indeed it can be the case, and unfortunately you can ruin your business just because you didn't pay attention on the security and compliances aspect. So that's why it's also highly important topic to discuss. And of course, feel free to contact us. We are happy to answer on any questions and share our knowledge and experience. So Gena, do you have something to add in additional?
Yeah, thank you for your attention, guys. If you have any comments, we'll be glad to answer them. Otherwise, we'll be happy to connect. Please follow us on LinkedIn. Write your thoughts. We can get on a call together, discuss possible cooperation if you work in the same sphere. And please join us on offline events if you are in London or close to London, and on future online events. Thank you very much again.
Yeah, definitely. I hope it wasn't much boring. So anyway, I hope you find some, the insights, and it will help you to improve your processes in your product or future product. And yeah, so wish you all the best and stay in touch.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Bye. Cheers.